You're sitting comfortably in your seat, waiting for the takeoff of a transcontinental flight. The feeling of safety is reassuring, but in just a few minutes, everything changes drastically. You hear a thunderous crash, followed by a terrifying silence, and the plane begins to lose altitude. This catastrophic scenario wasn't taken from a movie, but from real events that occurred with the DC-10.
Left here that's recognizable as being a part of an aircraft.
An aircraft that promised to be the jewel of commercial aviation, but quickly became a symbol of tragedy and controversy. This nightmare would repeat itself years later, but this time in an even more lethal and devastating way, completely changing the reputation, confidence, and sales of the trijet.
Are you worried about flying on the DC-10?
How did an airplane that should have been the pride of airlines become one of the most feared by passengers and pilots? Where did McDonnell Douglas go wrong in the DC-10's brilliant path, and why did it never recover? This is the dark story you're about to discover.
If you're also passionate about the world of aviation, consider subscribing to the channel and supporting our team.
In the 1960s, commercial aviation was living its golden days. Boeing dominated with the 707, and later with the famous 747. McDonnell Douglas, Boeing's rival, knew it needed a worthy response or would be crushed by the competition. That's how the DC-10 was born on August 29, 1970. Its first test takeoff marked the beginning of an era that promised greatness. The choice of 3 engines wasn't by chance. It was the perfect middle ground between the safety of 4-engine aircraft and the economy of twin engines. Additionally, the trijet came equipped with revolutionary General Electric CF6-6 turbofan engines, which promised to consume 15 to 20% less fuel than older models. The numbers impressed anyone. The interior measured 20 feet wide by 8 feet high, accommodating between 255 passengers and 380 people. The plane had a wingspan of 164 feet, was 181 feet long, and 56 feet tall. But what caught the most attention was the 3rd engine, installed right at the rear, at the base of the tail. This gave the DC-10 a unique appearance at airports. But these innovations hid problems that would soon show their darker side. Airlines fell in love with the DC-10. The modern design and comfort promises made it the #1 choice for major aviation companies. Priced between $20 and $30 million at the time, even carrying fewer people, the DC-10 flew similar distances, up to 5,965 miles in long-range versions. Throughout its entire career, exactly 386 of these aircraft were manufactured, sold to 54 airlines around the world. American Airlines led with 60 units, followed by United Airlines with 55, Northwest Airlines with 27, and Continental Airlines with 21. These companies mostly used the DC-10 on long flights, crossing continents and oceans. But behind this glorious rise, small problems began to emerge. What no one imagined was that they would transform into a terrifying sequence of disasters. June 12, 1972, just 2 years after launch, something happened that chilled everyone in aviation to the bone. American Airlines Flight 96 was flying normally when suddenly the cargo door opened by itself at 37,700 feet altitude. The pressure difference was brutal, 8.5 pounds per square inch, causing the passenger cabin floor to partially collapse and damaging the cables that controlled the plane. Only the exceptional skill of the pilot saved everyone, achieving an emergency landing in Windsor, Canada. This accident showed that there was something fundamentally wrong with the cargo door locking system. But the changes made weren't enough to prevent the horror that was to come. March 3, 1974, 12:30 p.m., skies over France. A scene of absolute terror was about to happen. Turkish Airlines Flight 981 took off normally from Orly Airport in Paris, carrying 335 passengers and 11 crew members. After just 77 seconds in the air, at only 4,593 feet altitude, the same cargo door problem happened again. But this time, there would be no happy ending. The decompression was even more violent. The pressure difference literally ripped away a piece of 26 square feet from the cabin floor, instantly cutting all the cables of the hydraulic systems, both primary and backup. The pilots completely lost control of the plane. Elevator, aileron, rudder, nothing worked anymore. The trijet entered a death spiral before crashing into the Ermenonville forest at nearly 500 miles per hour. Everyone lost their lives. It was the worst air accident in history up to that moment. But the curse that haunted this plane was just beginning to show all its destructive force. May 25, 1979. An ordinary Friday at Chicago's O'Hare Airport turned into a nightmare no one ever forgot. It was 3:02 p.m. when American Airlines Flight 191 began its takeoff run on runway 32R. At 17 seconds into the run, when the plane was at 180 miles per hour and almost lifting off, a terrible metallic noise echoed throughout the airport. Engine number 1 completely detached from the left wing, taking along a piece of the wing structure. Things got even worse. When the engine broke free, it cut the hydraulic cables that controlled the left wing. The stall warning system stopped working, leaving the pilots completely in the dark about what was happening. And worst of all, the engine separation caused the slats, small surfaces at the front of the wing, to retract automatically, creating a deadly difference in lift between the two wings. The pilot and co-pilot fought against the impossible. The plane climbed only 325 feet before banking 112 degrees to the left and diving headfirst into a hangar near the airport. All 271 people on board died instantly, along with 2 employees on the ground. This dark moment forever sealed the sinister reputation of the trijet and triggered an unprecedented crisis in aviation. The impact was immediate and devastating. On June 6, 1979, just 12 days after the Chicago tragedy, the Federal Aviation Administration made a decision that had never happened before. It banned all DC-10s from flying in the United States. This order grounded 138 aircraft at once, canceling about 3,000 flights daily and leaving more than 100,000 daily passengers without transportation. The chaos was total. Airports like O'Hare, Los Angeles, and Miami saw their operations cut in half. Airlines were losing $30 million daily. Worldwide, things weren't different. The United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Japan also temporarily banned the DC-10 from their skies. Only after several months of intensive inspections, mandatory modifications to engine mounts, and new maintenance protocols did the FAA clear the plane to fly again on July 13, 1979. But even with all the technical fixes, public confidence was broken, and another dramatic chapter still awaited it. July 19, 1989, 10 years after Chicago, the DC-10 would simultaneously star in its greatest tragedy and most heroic moment. United Airlines Flight 232 departed normally from Denver to Chicago with 285 passengers and 11 crew members when, at 3:16 p.m., flying over Iowa, an explosion completely destroyed the rear engine.
It wasn't just any explosion. Pieces of the fan disc, weighing 353 pounds and spinning at 3,400 revolutions per minute, shattered violently, cutting all 3 hydraulic lines running through the tail. Everything stopped working. The commander faced the unthinkable. Together with the co-pilot, flight engineer, and instructor, who was luckily in the cabin as a passenger, they invented a technique never tested before, controlling the plane only by adjusting the power of the two remaining engines. They managed to get the plane to Sioux City, Iowa, where they attempted to land on runway 22. The impact was violent. The plane broke into 4 pieces and caught fire, but 184 of the 296 people on board survived, an accident that should have killed everyone. This event, ironically, both consolidated the reputation for problems and showed that the trijet was structurally very resistant, even in extreme situations. The years following the Chicago disaster were devastating for McDonnell Douglas. Orders plummeted from an average of 30 to 40 aircraft per year to just 5 to 8 annual orders between 1980 and 1985. Airlines began removing the trijet from main routes, using it only for cargo or less important flights. The company faced more than 200 lawsuits related to the accidents, paying about $500 million in compensation. Later investigations showed that many problems attributed to the aircraft's design were actually the result of improper maintenance procedures by the airlines themselves. The final report on Flight 191, for example, concluded that the engine detached due to maintenance practices not authorized by McDonnell Douglas. American Airlines had created a procedure to remove the engine together with the support using inadequate equipment, causing small cracks that eventually led to catastrophic failure. Despite favorable technical evidence, public opinion never completely trusted the trijet again, and it never recovered its commercial credibility. Paradoxically, after the turbulent initial years, the DC-10 proved to be an extremely reliable platform. Data from 1985 to 2000 shows an accident rate of 0.12 per 100,000 flight hours, comparable to the best safety indices in commercial aviation. The cargo version, called DC-10F, was very successful in freight transport. With internal space of 5,016 cubic feet and capacity to carry up to 168,000 pounds, it became the preference of companies like FedEx, with 55 units, UPS, with 43 units, and Lufthansa Cargo, with 21 units. Its cargo door, measuring 12 by 8.5 feet, allowed for easy loading of standard aviation containers. The military version KC-10 Extender, made for the U.S. Air Force, showed incredible versatility, with capacity to carry 42,540 gallons of fuel to refuel other aircraft in the air, and maximum range of 11,500 miles. 60 units were produced between 1981 and 1988. These aircraft participated in important operations like the Gulf War, 1991, Afghanistan, 2001, and Iraq, 2003, remaining in operation until their final retirement in 2024. The DC-10 worked for more than 4 decades, transporting approximately 2.3 billion passengers on more than 15 million commercial flights. Even after the initial tragedies, it proved to be a structurally strong and operationally efficient aircraft. Its unique characteristics, 3 engines, giant cabin, and operational versatility were genuinely appreciated by both operators and experienced passengers. McDonnell Douglas, on the other hand, never fully recovered from the problems caused by the trijet's initial failures. The company lost market share to competitors who developed more efficient twin-engine aircraft like the Boeing 676 and Airbus A300. Later innovation attempts, including the MD-11, an evolution of the DC-10, couldn't restore the lost leadership. In 1997, Boeing officially purchased McDonnell Douglas for $13.3 billion, definitively ending 78 years of history of one of aviation's most famous manufacturers. This merger marked the end of the golden era of the 3 major American manufacturers, Boeing, McDonnell Douglas, and Lockheed, creating the Boeing-Airbus duopoly that dominates today. The last commercial passenger flight of the DC-10 occurred on February 20, 2014, operated by Bangladesh Biman, symbolically closing a controversial but unforgettable chapter in aviation history. The trijet's story is a fascinating study of the complexities of modern commercial aviation. It represents both the incredible potential of technological innovation and the devastating risks of design flaws or inadequate procedures. This aircraft taught fundamental lessons about operational safety, careful product development, and the importance of always learning from past mistakes.